The Galipitans make magnificent sweaters. The Never-Ending Sacrifice is the finest Cardassian novel ever written, and Bashir is not in the mood for noisy, crowded, and vulgar today. Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, everybody.
We are also joined by extremely special guest, Mr. Andrew J. Robinson. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
Awesome to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Today we are doing a review of episode 21 of season 2 for Deep Space Nine called The Wire, which many people agree is the coolest Garak episode ever. How you guys doing? All is well?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right. Well, that's all that matters. We're good.
The world is, burning, but I'm fine.
Yeah. We're all staying in our little cocoon right now, but it's for the better, I think.
I do want to make
question about
1 second.
Oh yeah, we question about that artwork in the background.
We're going to forget.
Was my question for you.
Mr. J.J. Lendl, one of the coolest artists that we know, really amazing, really talented, whipped this up for us for this special occasion. Actually, let me get my face out of here so that we could see it for a second. There we go. So this was J.J. Lendl. Check his stuff out. Really cool, super talented. That man, Garak, looks awesome in it too.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable performance that you gave in this episode, Andrew. I think it was just marvelous. And it just stood out to me how amazing it was. You came out so contextually layered in this with your, who you are in this character, who Garak is.
Thank you, Cirroc. Yeah,
it was beautiful.
No, I was thinking about The Wire today, knowing that we were going to do this, and it's like it's in terms of film performances that there's nothing I'm more proud of than that one. It's like I can count on one hand the performances I've given, and I've said this before that if. The people discount, or at least the industry, I should say, not people. Our industry tends to discount, sci-fi, stuff like this that somehow,
right,
really good work, and not just acting. I mean, the writing, the Robert Hewitt Wolfe who wrote this episode. I mean, it's those long speeches and the way he balanced them and the way one progressed to another, and how the stories kind of sort of flowed along. I mean, it's great writing.
Absolutely.
What Cirroc initially said kind of made me think of something, Andy. Do you feel like you got a slightly better grasp of the character upon reading that script? Because it seemed like you had, from the very first episode, a complete 100% grasp on the character.
I thought you fell off your chair, Cirroc.
Yeah, no, it's this stand that I have that is...
Man, you got to stop drinking in the middle of the day. No, but anyway, yes. I'm sorry, Ryan.
That's okay. We're getting a grasp of Cirroc's character now, too.
No, that's perfect. That reminded me. That was something that Aaron would have definitely not let go of by. So I'm glad that you got me.
God.
No, I'm glad you got me. It was a good reminder of the tomfoolery. But no, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ryan.
Not at all. So it did seem like you and others like Renee and Armin, it seemed like on day one, you already had your character fleshed out. And so I was wondering if you felt that way, or if upon reading the script of The Wire, it kind of helped you to get an even better grasp of the character, like more developed.
There's no doubt. I mean, it helped enormously, even though, basically how it helped, ironically, it's like to find the truth of the character with all the lies, and with all the fabrications and all the stories. But again, it comes down to the writing. I mean, I actually had the character when I auditioned for him. And that's why I got the job. And that happens, as Cirroc knows. I mean, that happens so rarely that you walk into a room and then bang, you hit it, and yeah, it's like, and it's a mysterious thing, you know. I mean, the writing has to be good. I mean, if the writing is shitty, then that, forget about it. But if the writing is good, then there is the chance that you can there's a confluence that suddenly, you know, you and this character sort of like come together in this place, and then bam, you're there. But certainly The Wire, I mean, because there was so much of it, there was so much, you know, and you know, I hesitate to call it information, because he was basically just desperately trying to maintain his cover, and so like there were there were some things that were true, most of it was not true, and he was just delirious in terms of like you know, in how he was trying to cover himself.
Yeah, what I took away from it, because I see you in the first kind of opening of Garak and the introduction of his character. The charm and the wit and the mystery were the things that got me intrigued about who Garak was. You had this charm about you. You had this mysterious kind of what is he about? And in this episode, what I see is even a deeper layer of this. What's troubling you, and you know what's inside, and why you're here, why you're at DS9, how you feel about being there. I mean, you gave one line. I think you said, I thought I was supposed to be the spy," which I really liked the way you.
Right, I forgot about that.
I liked the way you said that. It was like you're starting to seal him, kind of peel back and really reveal, you know, who this character is in this episode.
But it's that the dynamic of like he is revealing, but he's so desperately trying not to, and it's that training that he had. I mean, anybody who's been trained, you know, to like maintain, you know, to the death your secrets, and yet it was. I'm reminded just now. Once I was directing a play. And I, in the middle of during the play, there was a terrible flu epidemic that was going on. The play was in Florida, in Miami, and I didn't feel well that day, and so, but I went to rehearsal, and I'm working with the actors, and I started talking, and this is before Deep Space Nine. This was like in the early, about 1990, and so. We were talking, we were working, and I was talking, and then suddenly I started talking, and I'm 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 talking, and I see the actors look at me, you know, wondering what the hell's going on here, because what I was saying was making absolutely no sense, no sense at all, and I was burning up, but I couldn't stop talking. And that, you know, and that's kind of like what was going on with Garak in that thing.
Cirroc,
you know what I love
saying. I was just gonna say, Cirroc, thank you for not saying that's Ryan every day. I felt it coming, and it didn't. I was like, cool, thanks, man. Anyway, sorry,
that's how I feel working with Ryan. I'm glad you said it for me. Thank you. No, but you know the thing about it is like he's constantly lying, but telling parts of the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know, one of the things I learned about Garak was that, you know, I learned people who lie to me, like, for instance, Trump, who's always lying. I mean, who never stops lying. I mean, but so the thing is, what I've learned is that, wow, I can find out about a person through that person's lies. Right. I can find almost more than, can you imagine if Donald Trump tried to start telling the truth? Then I'd get nervous. I think, oh, whoa, Jesus.
Well, you wouldn't believe it either.
No, I wouldn't believe it. I would have no idea who this guy is.
No, but go ahead, Ryan. No, I love the way it kind of peels back. So, and then what about this friendship with Bashir? What you know, I think that there was another line that you said, "Do you think because you have lunch once a week with me that we're friends?"
Oh,
And
man.
I love that line.
I did too, and I love because I bit into that line, man. I
Oh
wanted
God,
to make that. I wanted to hurt with that one.
it stung when I heard it. I was like,
Yeah.
God, that's cold.
Yeah, no, right. And that's and the irony, of course, is that's why old Andy Robinson got the job in the first place. It was because they were looking for, a relationship for Dr. Bashir to have.
Right.
Yeah. And it turns out, I mean, I just love the way that you guys go back and forth. But I think, you can't talk about this without this monologue that you had that just was like, just sits in the middle of this episode as like just classic, just as good as it gets performance that I've seen. So,
I know the one. Yes. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
don't remember
was
the exact
moved by
monologues,
it.
but I remember when it suddenly broke out. It just broke out, and I wanted to destroy the set, and it was like it took me all. I don't know what it was. It was like a Dirty Harry moment or something. I mean, I just wanted to tear it all down, and I think Cliff Bowl was the director.
It was Kim Friedman.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And just let it go. I mean, it kept the camera. Marvin Rush was on the camera and he was doing his handheld stuff, which Marvin does amazingly. They just let it go. And it was, and it was, again, it was like, as I said, I've never been prouder of anything in my life.
Even more than Dirty Harry, huh?
As much as Dirty Harry.
Wow.
As
Incredible.
much. It really is. I mean, and I don't say that lightly, because it was like, it was, I mean, it took a lot out of me, which those things do, because something, again, it's a mysterious, I don't understand it myself, just something gets, because the thing is that people think we play characters. We don't play characters. We play ourselves playing a character. It's like Cirroc Jake doesn't exist. Garak doesn't exist except on a page. It's Cirroc and it's Andy that you're seeing there. Mm-hmm. And again, when the stars are in the right place and things sort of like line up, suddenly it's like it's you, and it's a part of you that comes through that character that brings that character to life. But it's always Andy and it's always Cirroc.
There's a metaphor there with what you said earlier about somebody that's always lying. You can pick the truth in there. It's almost like, as an actor, these lines are kind of like the made up stuff, but yourself, that's the truth. Always. That's shining out.
Always. It's the difference. If somebody thinks that they're Hamlet, I mean, or that Hamlet is the person that's performing, and the actor is not there, they're deluded. They're totally deluded. The reason we watch actors is because we're watching that person channel that information that's mm-hmm. called Hamlet, or it's called Jake, or that's called Sisko, or whomever.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, because, us nerds that like to watch this kind of stuff, I do this all the time, where when I watch a scene that was well delivered, or a line that was well delivered, and I'm really impressed by an actor, or they do something different that I didn't expect, I always like to imagine what it would be like if a different actor were delivering that line, or a different, actor were doing that scene or whatever. And that just gets us to appreciate the casting of Deep Space Nine so much more, because it's hard to imagine any actor delivering lines or doing scenes or portraying characters better than the ones that they currently.
Up and down the line, that cast was perfect. And I think that's, I think the other shows are fine. The actors were lovely in all the other shows, but this show, man, it was nailed from beginning to end. And especially, my feeling was, with the characters like myself, who were the recurring characters, and Jeffrey and all of the, so many. I mean, that just came through. Aaron. I mean, it was like it was beautiful. It was like a repertory company, really.
Yeah, I'm just still blown away by the complexity of Garak and what he's going through in this stage on this show, and what I felt in the performance. And what I walked away with as I was watching it was I felt somebody who was going through withdrawal. I felt that aspect of it. I also felt the post-traumatic stress of war and then being in that mindset. And then I also felt another thing about this personal thing of just the single act of letting these Bajorans go, right? These children. Yeah. And feeling guilty about letting people live, essentially.
Boy, that was the one. That was the trigger for me, Cirroc. Right on. That's so right on what you just said. And yeah, I come from a lot of alcoholism in my family, and I mean severe shit, and families that were ruined, or parts of our family that were just decimated because of that. And there was frankly, there was a time when I thought I was going to go down that path. So the whole thing about addiction and how it just and people who aren't bedeviled with that particular disease don't really understand just how it once it gets a hold on somebody, it's devastating, and how hard it is, how really tremendously powerful the grip is, and how to get out from that grip, it takes such an act of will.
Yeah, you definitely had a lot to draw from with that.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's, I mean, to piggyback off that, I've had some people very close to me that had addiction, specifically alcohol and other things, and being fortunate that I don't have that gene or that disease or whatever it is, it's really an eye-opener when you can actually see and experience just how powerful something like that is to make people do and say and think and believe the things that it does.
Yeah,
you're right. It's really practically impossible for other people to fully understand it, because it's just not our place to pass that kind of judgment on anybody. But it really changes their perception of everything.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, I grew up like that. My father was dealing with addiction, and I remember visiting him in rehab facilities and things of that nature, and it tore our family apart. And that's why I understood where this character was coming from so much, because I've seen those kinds of lashing out firsthand. And one of the things that people going through these kind of withdrawals or being confronted by intervention, they really tear at the people that are trying to take care of them most, right? They want to destroy that person.
That's right.
And I felt that here. You came at Bashir like you wanted to make him feel worthless, wasted time. You shouldn't have had any faith and trust in me, and I don't care about you at all.
Yeah, but all the shame you're feeling,
right?
All the shame and the guilt. You just want to get it off me, and
Yeah. So that was just a really impactful thing, and I'm sure that when you go and you do conventions, that people are asking you. I'm sure that people that have dealt with addiction in their own life have questions for you about, how that impacted their life, or maybe comments about how.
No, not really, because the thing about addiction is that it's the shame. You can get past the addiction, but the thing that's underneath that addiction, the shame, is like that's forever. That's always there. That's always like something that has to be dealt with, and so people don't talk about that, That, you know, the people who come up to me and thank me the most are people who are gay, or
Right.
who have been closeted. And because back in the early 90s, like, this was one of the, you know, I mean, certainly in the sci-fi world, this is, you know, one of the few guys who was sexually ambiguous, Garak.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But in terms of the addiction thing, not much. It's interesting. It's interesting you should say that. Yeah.
That's an interesting dichotomy kind of thing there, because back in the day there was that stigma against, you know, the gay community, whereas now that's luckily going away. There's still some, but we're getting better at it. So people are more able to come and talk about it and thank you for it. Whereas the stigma towards, you know, alcoholism and addiction is really hard to get the monkey off their back there, because they feel like they're doing it to themselves or they're doing it to others rather than just.
One is a disease and
Right.
the other is not.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's like, and so basically, it's the gay person, the person who is, you know, that is who they are. That's, you know, and of course we tried to stigmatize them, as you say, but you know, it's that was just a lie. That was just, you know, ignorance.
Exactly.
But the other thing is, like, you know, yeah.
Well, I do
Anyway,
hope we can.
See, this is what I love. This is what I love about this. This was my education was good. So when I got hired to do Star Trek, I didn't know shit about Star Trek. I didn't watch the original series. I was not interested in it. You know, I didn't know a goddamn Cardassian from a Frankfurter. You know, so, and I thought, okay, it's a gig. You know, they didn't give me Odo, so they're giving me this guy. So fine, we'll do it. And then this was the education. It was the wire that educated me, that made me realize this is a serious place. This is, you know, this is truly worthwhile, because people, you know, the best of Star Trek is when they're talking about issues like this, and when they're getting into it, racism, you know, so many issues, you know, and people are watching it, and because it takes place in the future, there's enough distance between here and now where it's not in your face. You can actually see it and understand that here is an issue. Understand the issue. I mean, that's when I got on board after The Wire. I really did.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Cirroc and I talk about this just about every episode, is that what Star Trek does better than any show that I've ever seen, and possibly anybody's ever seen, is they present issues in such a light and with enough separation, because that's what science fiction does, to allow people to look at things with fresh eyes. And not only that, but Deep Space Nine is aged like a fine wine, in that the issues that it brings up are not only still relevant today, but a lot of times even more so relevant than they were 25 years ago. And this is just another one.
I
was waiting for you, Cirroc.
No, I have to agree. I mean, that's one of the beauties of the show, is that it talks about topics, you know, and when you talk about these kind of topics, you know, it's interesting, because I was thinking back to reading the book, The Diary of Anne Frank. And I remember reading that as part of my,
Great,
you know, required reading in school. But I read about her, and I would read about her story, and being stuck and confined in this house and not being able to leave. And it just comes about, and it just recently, because all of us are going through this thing where we're all having to stay in our house. And I know I'm not trying to compare the, you know,
sure,
the imminent Nazi invasion with what we're going through, but just the fact that, you know, these kinds of stories have themes that are timeless, and all of us have these kinds of stories that are timeless, that just ring a bell no matter where it is and who you are, what you hear it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, of course. And listen, it takes a process. I mean, you know, National Socialism, Nazism just didn't spring out of nowhere. It was guys with torches saying, we will not be replaced in Virginia. I mean, there's stuff that's going on now that we really have to be vigilant about, and we have to call out because it accumulates, and especially if we're not educating our children to see, this shit for what it is, then, whether it be anti-Semitism or racism or misogyny, all of it. I mean, then, we let it slide. Homophobia. Let it slide. It's okay. They're just faggots, I mean, whatever they, however we can just throw off our own problems and our own pain and our own suffering onto other people,
Right.
We have to call it out, and that's what I mean about episodes like The Wire or Duet. The one
that was the other one we loved very much.
That's right.
One of the first
with my friend Harris Yulin, who it's like that stuff is important. It's really important because young people see this and they're attracted to the universe of Deep Space Nine or whatever Star Trek universe it is, and then there's something to be learned there. Something is happening that's real.
And you're forced to think.
Hang on one second, Scott. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and then we'll jump right back on that on the seventh rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton and special guest Andrew J. Robinson. You can call him Andrew Robinson or Andy, maybe.
Yeah. Listen,
maybe.
So call me Joe. But what we were talking about earlier, that's why, for instance, on our show, what Avery did for our show was major. I mean, even the thing about shaving his head and having his hipster look. I mean, that was major. And what he had to do to go through that with the corporate, powers that be. But he hung in there. And it takes a price, it exhausted him, I know. And the flack that he got from that.
But he also understood the opportunity to tell these stories and how important it is for us to show up and represent in these moments. And when you're working with a cast like what we had, when you have this much talent on the set, it's actually a pleasure to do these performances, especially when you have this writing involved. There's the line I wanted to bring up was never tell the truth when a lie will do.
That's right.
You know what I was thinking, Cirroc, when he said that line, I was like, that reminded me of the rules of acquisition that we have for the Ferengi. This should be the rules of obfuscation.
That's right.
The Cardassians have rules of obfuscation, right?
It's amazing. I love that line.
So much. I do too.
Yeah. So I mean,
and also never tell the same lie twice. I mean, these are fabulous stuff.
Yes,
we have got to start recording these rules of obfuscation. These are
obfuscation, absolutely.
I think at the end you said so. They're all true. You said even the lies, especially the lies.
Especially the lies. But that's a great title, Ryan. I think the laws of obfuscation that's perfect.
I think that's something that the Deep Space Nine writers wrote without even knowing it. They had a set of laws, a code of conduct almost for Cardassians and how they obfuscate, how they, confuse and whatever other words we could use to avoid telling, the truth, especially when any lie will do, as Cirroc says. I think that even though maybe they didn't do it fully consciously, but that's absolutely what they did in creating the Cardassians. And speaking of what Cirroc said when he brought up that line, I do want to say that about a week or two ago, a writer asked me because she hates science fiction. She hates science fiction, but she keeps getting science fiction writing jobs or working with science fiction. So it's like this curse. And she said, what's your favorite line in science fiction? and I said, favorite line or favorite scene? And the funny thing is you were in both of those, Andrew. I said my favorite scene ever was the root beer scene with you and Armin. And Armin has told us about that and how beautiful and amazing that one was. Favorite scene, I think that was the best, not just written, but especially performed, the way you guys the way you added all that subtext to it. But I said my favorite line, and it was that one that Cirroc mentioned. I said, how much of it was true, and you say all of it, and Bashir says even the lies, and you say especially the lies, and she really liked it. And I was like, see, that's sci-fi. You should watch sci-fi, man.
And that's what I mean. I learned about lying. I'm a terrible liar myself. I've tried to lie a lot, but I'm a bad liar. And Garak taught me about lies. Truly did.
Cirroc, are you a good liar?
I used to be, and as I got older, I stopped lying. I didn't see the value in it. It was easier to tell the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
I got in too much trouble for lying.
Yeah, I know.
So I stopped lying, and I suck at it now. But I'm good at spotting it.
Yeah, no, that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan. No, I'm joking.
Usually at the beginning of our second segment, I forgot we go over the trivioids that didn't make the cutting room floor, which is, at the very beginning I mentioned the three little pieces of trivia. When I said the Gallipotins make magnificent sweaters, the never-ending sacrifice, the finest Cardassian novel ever written, and Bashir is not in the mood for noisy, crowded, and vulgar today. What I liked about those three was they were all in the first 2 minutes. I was like, what? There was so much good stuff in just the first 2 minutes of that episode. I was like, I got to choose those. These were the ones that didn't make it very quickly. Bashir is a doctor, not a botanist, which harkens back to Bones. DeForest Kelley would always say similar things. Tobin had even less luck with plants than he did with women. Now, the problem with that is a little typo. Instead of plants, I wrote pants, but maybe that's why he didn't.
That's why I had a problem
with pants. So, Quark offers Bashir a little Saurian brandy to go. Odo routinely monitors all of Quark's subspace communications. Quark always makes his clandestine calls after the bar closes at 0200 hours. Hartla is still working the Dabo tables. That was the Cardassian fellow that was.
I like that
really
little conversation about her. Yeah.
And
nothing about Tarkalian tea, huh?
Wait. Chief O'Brien tells Julian he's an infuriating pest, quote, all the time, and I don't listen to him either. And yes, Bashir always drinks Tarkalian tea. Good one, sir.
There it is. I got it. No, I wanted to say, though, it was interesting because in this episode, they did mention the Tal Shiar.
Right.
Which is being brought up now in the new Picard, right?
Right.
I haven't seen the new Picard yet.
Oh, you should. It's fantastic. They had a new episode.
That's fine. I understand it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, the central theme of it is the Romulan Tal Shiar, and in this episode, the Tal Shiar is being mentioned as being second behind the Obsidian Order. The other thing that I wanted to say was the scene that you had with Bashir. And you're laying there and you're confessing to him, and he says something to the point effect of, "Why are you telling me this?" And you say, "I need to know someone forgives me."
Yes.
And I just, going back to excellent writing, but also excellent performance, just it just tickled me because I feel like we're all kind of guilty of that kind of I need to know someone forgives me type of mentality.
Yeah. It goes back to the shame thing. It goes back to the shame. I mean, because you feel this is your fault. You feel that you're a weak person. That somehow you're damaged. You're damaged goods. That you've brought this on yourself. And because that's what society, like routinely is felt about addiction, in the past. And so, you need someone to forgive you. It's, it's okay, man. It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
And that's why, oh God, the writing. I mean, for that, because believe me, when the episode of The Wire, when it came down to that line, Jesus, that had such meaning for me. Such meaning. It was so beautifully the way that would, how Robert had placed that. Had progressed Garak's story to that point. Because that's the truth. That's the bone stone cold truth.
And then the camera pans down to your hands, kind of like clasping, I got you, and just this little squeeze of the hand.
Yeah,
and it was just great. I mean, the whole thing, the way the scene flowed is. There was another thing you said, because I was chilly and my stomach was growling. Oh man,
he hated how cold it was.
It just reminded me of decisions you make under those kinds of circumstances, right? Like your stomach's growling and you're cold. Your mind's not thinking the same.
Now, Andy, I wanted to ask you, since we're on the topic of the writing, as usual, because I think we can all agree that the best writing of any Star Trek series is Deep Space Nine. I personally believe that. I wanted to ask you, was there a point where the director, her name again was Kim Friedman, where she gave you any kind of notes that gave you like an aha moment? Or did you feel like it was all on the page so well that there really didn't need much direction for it?
Yeah, I don't remember, but what I do remember is what I said before, is that, direction, good direction, it's often, it's just as important to butt out as it is to, enter into the thing and to know what the difference is. And when an actor is on their game, you butt out. You let the actor go. And she let me go. And that thing we were talking about earlier, when Garak finally just blows. And some of the stuff, I was losing lines. Because that's what happens sometimes. You get into a thing and the lines just kind of go. But I knew that I was on a roll, and I didn't want to let it go. And so I was kind of like inverting shit, and sort of like taking the text maybe that was supposed to be someplace else. I eventually got it all in, but she just let it go, and I'm grateful when a director has that kind of sense to do that.
Yeah, I usually get out of the way when somebody's in their zone.
That's right. Exactly.
Just leave them alone, let them go, and be hesitant to call cut and reset it back to one.
I'm never forget. I was doing this soap opera once, in New York, a soap opera called Ryan's Hope, and I, it's one of these like it's soap opera. Yeah, right. That's it, Ryan.
Yeah, people mentioned that to me when I was in elementary school. Yeah, I remember that. I just got a flashback.
Yeah, that's right. And so, of course, in a la soap opera, my character finds out that his girlfriend's been stepping out on him with some other dude, and so I blow my top, and I started going, and again, it happened. It wasn't the text was changing, and the director jumps in and says, "No, wait, that's not the text." And I remember saying, "What the hell are you doing? Who gives a shit if it's the text or not?"
Does it look good? Does it look believable?
Yeah, I knew I was there. I was in the zone.
I'm in the zone, man. Don't mess it up.
That's really good on Miss Friedman, because for choosing performance over the specific lines, because we all know how much of a stickler the Star Trek producers and writers were with the lines. But she was like, I cannot let go of this performance, and he's going to find those lines.
Yeah,
And speaking of the lines, and it's funny because this episode, I kept writing down lines saying best line of the episode.
And it just kept
and literally
doing.
5 minutes later, I'm like, no, this is the best line. So I have a bunch. But the one that I really thought when you were really trying to sting Bashir, you said, you think I enjoy eating mediocre food and, staring at your smug, sanctimonious face.
Sanctimonious, that's right. Oh my God.
I mean, that's like the best curse out I've ever seen I just loved it. I really did love it. And surprisingly, Bashir took it all. Like he just...
That's right.
Yeah, he was good about like taking all the slaps in the face and not really flinching. He didn't let it get to it. No. He didn't get it personally. He wasn't personally affected by it. He knew that you were going through it, so he's like, "All right, I guess I'm this punching bag."
He was a doctor,
right?
He had that. He maintained that doctor objectivity.
Yes, he did. Yeah, absolutely.
We definitely kind of poo-poo the doctor because he's always chasing after the ladies constantly and being kind of a slime
But he deserves his kudos.
Nice to see him this time with the big picture in mind and rising above and saying, let this guy yell at me. That's not what's important. I got to take care of this guy's health and, whatever it is, even if it means we're going to go drinking over in the infirmary real quick. We're going to go have a drink over in the infirmary real quick, buddy.
Yeah, I couldn't have done that without Sid. Sid, it was like an acrobat. It was like letting go of the trapeze. It's not, and you're in midair and knowing that the other person's going to catch you, because that's what Sid did. He caught me every time I let go.
The back and forth was classic. Yeah. There was another line where you didn't want to go to the infirmary, and so you said you think something to the effect of I'm not going to be on display for the Bajoran amusement. And so there was this pride there, right? You could see that Garrett was still holding on to his pride. Like, I'm not going to be paraded down and take the perp walk down to your little infirmary and have everybody thinking I'm sick.
Well, my Garak was very vain. He was totally vain. That's why the threads had to be just right.
Oh man!
He did not want to be caught with a hair out of place.
Yeah. And speaking of those threads, just literally, I think you have the best wardrobe of the series.
Says the guy with the best wardrobe in the series.
No, Garrett has the best wardrobe. Garrett has the best wardrobe. I literally wear some of those pieces like right now.
Oh, some of those jackets, some of those coats, man, were just so.
And then you say this line where it's just like it was kind of piercing and it was a little hurt. It hurt me a little bit to hear you say it, but you said living on the station is torture. Yes. And it was like torturing you.
Yeah.
And it made me just like it hurt a little bit because I think of it as the place where I grew up.
No.
And I'm thinking
Right. It's like the alienation. The whole thing. That's why the character was such a great character to play. It had everything. For it's like a fish out of water, a stranger in a strange land. Who the hell is he? What is he doing there? What are his motives? And I think in that episode you got a sense of Garak himself wondering, what the hell am I doing here? Why? What is this? And all his education, the way he's been acculturated and. Like suddenly being brought up into question. What the hell is this? Because they put this wire in him, so that he could withstand torture. The Obsidian Order, some Obsidian Order device,
right?
And the guy was like basically tortured by that. It's like Yeah, it's really interesting. And, you know, it's so funny talking with you guys about this episode. Everything, because I haven't seen it, so I am going to go back now and look at it again.
Right.
And you know,
the performances. I'm telling you, there's going to be that scene where you're going to even your hairs on the back of your neck stand up like, oh, I mean, to me, it reminds me. There's only another scene that I can think of in the entire series like it. And that was the scene where Benny Russell breaks down at the newspaper.
Wow!
Right.
And he breaks down.
Oh my God! And he just literal breakdown.
Yeah, this is real. This is real in my mind. It's real. And he breaks down and he literally collapses on the floor. Now that scene. This scene reminded me of that, like that. They're up. Those are the two scenes that I have so far. If I have to say, watch a scene in this for best scenes in the show, it's right there.
I'd also like to throw the scene into the hat from Duet, where the Cardassian guy, your friend, and like breaks down and finally admits what's going on. It had kind of a similar feel of like weaving through the lines before we get kind of the truth.
And you see, Harris is a Jew. When he was doing that, all that, you know, I mean, all those feelings that he has about that whole issue, you know, were there and informing in his performance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
that's absolutely true. Because, I mean, and you can see how, once again, that's how the layers come out. And that's, you know, how we bring it to what we are and what we experience to the performance itself. Like you said, you're watching the person as that character, but that person you can't remove them from it.
No. I mean, and it's one of the things that, you know, as a young actor, you know, I wanted to become the character, you know, and so I thought, okay, I got to get Andy aside, and then I got stuck in the middle someplace, and you know, I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? I can't get to that character. I can't get to that character. It's me. I'm trying to get, you know, like you're trying to self-efface. You know, it's you know, it's kind of crazy. But you know, this is a crazy business, Cirroc. I mean, it's weird being an actor of what we do. It's just too weird for words.
It is, but it's also a pleasure when you get these opportunities to tell a story that know people are gonna relate to, that people are gonna say, wow, my story got some airtime, like what I feel, what I'm going through.
That's right.
You know, and like I said, there's people who have dealt with addiction like myself who watch this, and it just helped me understand my own, you know, memories about what I was dealing with, and you know, what do they say, denial, you know, when we're stuck in this place of denial. And it helped me realize my own denial about some of the things that I went through. And sometimes you push those away and you compartmentalize it. But when you see really good performances like this, it brings it right back up to the surface. And it's like, oh, yeah. You know, I remember this, or I felt that emotion, or I dealt with that. And so I'm sure, like, I'm surprised that not that many people have come to you and said that, you know, at conventions. But it would be certainly one of the things that I think would be an aspect of what impacted people.
You know, we've only got a few minutes left. I do want to just finish up on the torture aspect of it. Not only did Garrett mention that it was torture, but when we finally meet in Auburn-Tane, he says, oh, basically, I'd gladly give you the codes to keep Garrett alive because I want him to die old and tortured, knowing, what did he say? I want to live a long, miserable life. I want him to grow old, surrounded by people who hate him, knowing he'll never come home. And it just shows that he knows that's torture too. It's no secret, and they're just eating it up. They're loving it. And I did want to ask you, Andy, with the few minutes we have left, if you do remember the first impression you had when you first read the script, if if it took you a couple passes through, or if you read it and you immediately were like, this is the one. This is going to be magic.
The moment I read it. But for just a moment to go back, that's a hell of a thing, an Abrantane who's your father, for a father to say about you. I mean,
right.
That's a complicated family. But yeah, no, the moment I read that script, I thought, I think it was a gift, because he is, as an actor, you don't get a lot of gifts like that. You don't get a lot of gifts. Right. And you read that and you think, oh, wow. I mean, they obviously want to keep me around, because I thought I fully expected Garak. Actually, I felt this way all through the 7 years. I expected to get a script in which Garak was going to buy the farm, and that was that. See you later, pal. But really? It never happened, and for that I'm eternally grateful.
So are we.
Yeah, I don't think they could do that.
No, not after how well you did that. I don't think they could kill you off, and it definitely showed some confidence in your acting ability, that they said, let's give him this, this episode, these scenes, these lines, and he's going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, I think that Ira Bear said it best in the DS9 documentary when he said that. Garrett became the person that everybody grew to love the most. And I think that's pretty much sums up.
What a weird thing, though, man. A guy who lies, who's tortured, who's killed.
There's something, and you know what? I said it before. It's the charm.
Yeah,
I think there's a level of charm that he has, that is, people like charm.
Yeah, they do.
And it seems like it's the redemptive quality that allows us to overlook the lies and overlook
all the rest of
all the other stuff. He's just so damn charming, man.
Jesus.
Because he says it with the
I wish I were that charming in real life. Anyway. My wife just made a crack, but I won't repeat it.
Yeah, there are a few jokes that went through my head, and I was like, I'm not touching any of those.
I'm not. Okay. Thanks, Irene.
Give us one. Tell us what she said.
No.
Okay, better not then.
Anyway.
Well, I think we're just about out of time.
Good, because I'm starving. I got to eat something.
And it's too cold.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for joining us, Andy. We really appreciate it. We truly appreciate what you gave to the character of Garak and to specific scenes and monologues in this episode. I know me personally, when I first started watching Deep Space Nine, that you were the first character that made me really hang on, like clasp on to the show and go like, wow. Kind of almost like, this guy's touching me. This guy's speaking my language, or I really want to know more about this guy, So we really appreciate you coming on. And I know all the fans love you. They love you.
I love them back. They're ones that made the paycheck possible.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. It was a pleasure, Ron. Cirroc, it's always a pleasure, babe.
It's my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you again at one of these conventions and
when we can get out there and see each other.
When we get to that time, when the time comes.
August.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for Cirroc Lofton, for Aron Eisenberg, for Russ Haslidge, and for Andrew Robinson. Oh, also, by the way, do you remember this, Andy?
Oh, yes. Yes.
This was,
and also the fans. I want to thank the fans, all of you who sort of signed this petition for me to do an audio version of that book. Thank you for doing that. That's because that's something I would love to do. Because I love it.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, do you know where they can find that petition for anybody that hasn't seen it yet?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll just Google it. We'll find it. We'll put it up on the website. This 20 years ago, I read this. I don't even know where I got it or how, but this was easily, still to this day, the best Star Trek book I've ever read. It was just, it was fascinating. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And I was shocked to find out that you actually wrote it, even though it says it right here. I wasn't smart enough to look at the bottom. It wasn't until after I think it was midway through the book, somebody said, "Oh, and that's Garak who wrote it." I was like, "Oh, wow,
you don't
super
say."
Talented." So amazing job. If anybody hasn't read this book, definitely go read it. I'm sure you can get on Amazon or anywhere. It's awesome. It's fantastic, and you learn not just more about Garak, but also about Dukat and the whole Cardassian society. It's amazing.
That was the joy of it. I was able to create Cardassia, really, because nobody had touched that before, so it was great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everybody at home, and always remember the 7th rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th rule. This is the free-for-all with Homer Frizzell, Heather Jordan, Rex A. Wood, Kat R. King, Yvette Blackmon, known as Why Not, Dr. Marie Segal, and Mr. Scotty Baker, writer, producer, director of Fifth Passenger, and also Michael Myers, borrowing the face of William Shatner. So we just had a good conversation with Mr. Andy Robinson about The Wire. And we were talking about some really cool things about our favorite lines and our favorite scenes with Garak and stuff. So that's a good question for all of you. What is your favorite Garak scene or line, starting with... Oh, Kat reacted strongly. So we're going to start with you, Kat.
Every Garak line and scene. That's it.
Oh, that's it. Anne-Marie?
Oh, it's so hard. I really, really love his scenes with Ziyal. I think they're really beautiful and like bring out a really beautiful part of Garak's character. And then also, I mean, just anytime he's in his tailor shop is really fun, obviously. Especially like when he's trying to make wedding dresses for Lita.
Okay.
That's it.
Everybody just don't say anything at
What
all.
about Commander Homer Frizzell?
Are you okay?
We can't.
Oh, what? Song is gone.
We can't hear you, Homer.
I think didn't his headphones do that last time?
I think he's pantomiming.
I thought he
Sorry.
muted himself. That's okay.
I have a button I push, and if I look at it and I see that it's not blinking and it's just red, then it means that it's recording. But apparently, I didn't look at it very carefully.
Oh, nuts!
I know. I hate it when that happens. I think it's in this episode, actually. I don't have the exact line, but it has to do with the truth and the lies, and the difference between the two. And he pretty much says they're all true and they're all lies. And then Sid comes back
Especially
with
the lies.
Something.
Yes.
Yeah. He's, especially, or something like that. And it's like, so now for when Andy Robinson talks about Garak, I don't believe anything that he says completely. So it's actually extended beyond the character into what he says about the character.
Right. You and I are in agreement, Homer.
That's like some...
I brought up too.
Really fast, I have to also add when he talks about Mila, because I think that's really cute when he talks to his like maid from growing up, and I love Mila. Such a good woman Kardashian.
Mila Jovovich. So Heather, you had one for us?
Yeah,
No.
That's the Fifth Element.
Wait.
Scott Baker. What about?
Fifth Element. You said Mila.
Jovovich. Sorry.
Okay. I thought you said something different. You notice that one scene, I don't know exactly what episode it is, but he's sitting at the table with Dr. Bashir, and they're like, and Dr. Bashir is like asking him like, what's the truth? And he kind of goes like, and like Dr. Bashir is like still completely confused about everything.
Oh, every episode.
Wait, you know what's a good one? I just thought of a good one.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think we reviewed it just a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, when he said, "Oh, but the truth is scattered all over it, like pieces on this table," or something like that, right, Kat?
Oh, that was the one where they like find the Cardassian boy on the station that bites Eric.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Is that the one where Odo says you would shoot a man in the back, and Garak's like, it's the safest way, isn't it?
That one, Profit and Loss.
That's a good line.
I love that one.
That's a good way to go through life.
That's my favorite.
That's a good line right there.
There you go. You wanted an answer.
Scott, we've given you enough time to think of one. Are you ready?
I wouldn't say like a particular moment, but I love his interactions with Odo because Odo's my favorite character in the show. And so the interactions with him compared to Quark, because Quark is so obvious in being like
the foil.
Breaking the law and all this sort of thing.
Ooh,
and Garak's so creepy. And so yeah, I like that sort of love triangle of them three and the sort of cat and mouse game that they play, you know.
Can you tell us what that poster is behind you, Mr. Scott Baker, by the way?
Oh, Fifth Passenger, yeah, the film that's directed with, 5 people trapped in an escape pod after their spaceship blows up. Tim Russ, Doug Jones, Armin Shimmerman, Marina Sirtis, Mano Intiraymi, Hannah Hate, Ryan Husk.
Darnell Davis.
Where is that available?
Rico Anderson.
It's on Amazon.
It is on Amazon Prime right now, yeah. And also various other platforms.
Love.
While you guys are staying at home, check out Fifth Passenger.
Yeah.
Find it on fifthpassenger.com and you can watch it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Rex A. Wood, what do you think? What was your favorite Fifth Passenger scene?
Unfortunately, Homer and I kind of always think alike. So mine was the same one that he came up with. when it came to the point of where they were talking about what the truth is, and he comes up with the statement, well, they're all lies and things like that. I think that's probably one of the best lines.
It's definitely
that I like a lot. Is that same kind of statement there? Yeah,
absolutely.
Best Fifth Passenger line ever.
Moving over to the USS Yvette. What do you think?
Well, I always like in the Pale Moonlight. I love him in that because he's so in charge of everything, but we don't know he's really in charge of it. But I also love when he's with who's his father, or the head of the
Retain.
When he has scenes with him, it just changes his whole dynamic because he's always trying to be better for him when he's not the same guy we see all the time. So I kind of like that too.
Those of you at home that can't see it, that are just listening in, Yvette has her background as the USS Pasteur that was in All Good Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's got it angled to where it looks like her head is like the front of the ship. It looks awesome. It looks like, don't mess with Pasteur here, guys.
Don't mess with it.
Is it like Thomas the Train or something like that? Yeah.
Thomas the Train.
Thomas the Train engine.
Or maybe the old sailing ships that had the mermaid on the front.
Right.
Like
the Viking ships, yep.
Well, Cirroc, do you have a favorite Garak scene or line?
Yeah, you know what? There's a bunch. Like it's almost impossible to say which one is the best. But I think the one that I really like is the one he said, "Never tell the truth when a lie will do."
Right.
Yes, right.
And I think that's something we should all live by.
I thought we were.
He says something else he says, what does he say? He says, never tell the same lie twice.
Yeah. That one's fun. Especially when he talks about who cried wolf, and he loves that story retelling.
He's just very calculated. Like you think that he is going to do one thing, and then he just surprises you and does another. Like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was one episode where the station had gotten taken over, and I kind of remember seeing where I can't remember who it was, but it was probably someone from ops. But they were they came into his tailor shop to get away from whoever was attacking the station, and then Garrett came out of nowhere and helped them. And then they were like, "Why are you helping?" And it's just he just does these things that you aren't really expecting. But I guess he calculated that his chances were best if he helped the Starfleet versus the invaders.
So here's a fun second question. Just hanging on to that one, and we're going to go a little deeper with this. If you were to have Andy Robinson replace any actor on any Star Trek series just for fun, just to see how he would portray that character. Which would it be, Scott Baker?
Oh, no, just watching the last Picard episode, I had Data on my mind, so that would be interesting to think about it. Data.
He did say that he was going for the role of Odo earlier, so that would be
really.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I was also
thinking, mind blown.
He might be good for like the EMH doctor too. I feel like he has that kind of arm.
That's what I was thinking. That's my answer.
Sorry, Homer. I didn't even answer the last one.
That was my answer, the doctor.
Yeah, you didn't answer the last one.
Sorry.
Gosh.
Oh, okay. My favorite scene ever in any Star Trek series is the root beer scene, right, with Garak and Quark. And my favorite line is also involves Garak, and it was in this episode, which is when he says, what stories were true and which ones weren't true. And he says, all of them. And he says, even the lies. And he says, especially the lies.
Oh, you do such a good Bashir.
Thank you. Oh.
No, that was Garrett.
I don't know.
Ryan loves doing Bashir.
In this episode, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you think, Heather? Who would you want to experiment Andy Robinson?
Would he be in the Cardassian?
No, it would just be Andy Robinson playing any character just for fun, just to whoever.
I don't know. I keep wanting to say Tuvok.
Then do it.
So I don't know, Tuvok. I just would he?
Just do it.
How would he play a Vulcan? Just would he have that same snark in it, or would it be Vulcan?
Okay. We're not going to hit Yvette or Homer till the end because I stole their answers, so I'm giving them more time.
So did we hit record?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rex, what about you?
I'm going to say Scotty from the original series.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yet he would always lie about what was going on down there.
Yeah,
So
he did.
I would say, what's the problem? And he would kind of lie the different way, wouldn't tell the truth. You'd have to always try to get that out of him. Like, what's really the truth? What's going on down there?
Okay.
Amazing.
That's what she said. That's sorry.
What's going on down there?
You're a 5-year-old.
Sorry.
You are, really. You are.
Sorry, sometimes.
Amazing, sir.
Couldn't even help the
Why apologize for a great joke, Cirroc?
Yeah, that's true.
Gosh.
That's true.
Steve Carell over there.
No, I can't hear you.
I was saying Kat, but if you got an answer for us, Cirroc, you hit us with it.
Yeah. No, I want to hear Kat's answer.
No cheating.
Yes. Neelix.
Oh, that's
whoa.
Everybody stops.
Boom.
Yeah, that's like a mic drop.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah. Wait, I haven't got a mic. The closest thing I have is a headset. So
Drop the headset.
No,
There's a mic
it's a
on
gaming
there.
headset. It looks very expensive.
Don't break it.
You're right. Don't break that.
I caught it in my hand, my other hand.
Okay, good.
Now, how do you think
extras.
he would portray it differently? What would make it fun?
Well, I don't know. More like Andy. But Andy, could you really...
Sorry, I was just saying, can you imagine if Neelix acted like Garrett? Just like
I'm imagining it played that way, playing the opposite. So having them play the others' roles or swapping them out. I would love to. He would have been a great. You would love to see Garak or Andy acting as Andy. It's any character in Star Trek, and it's hilarious. Andy's doing Janeway. Andy doing anyone. It's hilarious. Whatever.
It's kind of good for morale on Deep Space
It would be
Nine.
so great for morale.
Really?
Yeah.
I was actually
watch him walk around with his hand on his hip,
So Kat, thanks. That was my other answer. Great.
You're welcome.
I'll come up with another one now.
Come on, homie. Come on, homie.
Janeway.
No, the Homer's just bullshitting. I don't believe
Right.
it.
Yeah, he's saying that.
No way.
Keep it
Janeway
concise.
was
Don't go all over the place, please. People.
And did we get you?
Want me to give you a
Anne?
suggestion, Homer?
Anne-Marie?
I would say the
I have ideas.
chef from Enterprise, because I was kind of thinking along the Neelix lines, but I want to see him interact. I feel like he would add a lot to the Enterprise show.
Which character?
The chef.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Porthos.
Just the chef.
I thought she said Porthos.
I don't know why.
He would be such a
Oh, that's hilarious. That's a great answer.
Dog. Yep, that's right.
Winning.
amazing.
Yvette, what do you think?
Well, I'm gonna stay with
Oriented.
Enterprise. I was thinking about Captain
Okay.
Shran.
Ooh.
Oh,
I love
those are
Shran.
fighting words.
Shran's
Andorian,
I
right?
love Shran.
Right?
Dan Dorian, yeah. I love him. He's the best.
Wow.
You know, Jeffrey Combs. Yeah.
Yes,
I don't know if I want to get rid of Jeffrey Combs, but
I know.
still a good one.
Be really interesting.
Yeah,
That
I'm
would
wondering
be-
if you would play it a little bit more charming and a little bit less.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be very charming. Same thing, but just very charming. You wouldn't know what the hell's going on.
Let's
Which-
play you more Garrick.
Right.
It's like Garrett, like on like Roy.
Seen an episode of Garrett playing everyone.
What about you, Homer? This is it. No
Yeah,
back-
this is it. So some of my answers are gone, but now I'm going to go with Jonathan Archer.
Oh,
I think it'd be good to not have someone who's like so straight-laced, like I'm a football captain guy,
I
and
think
have
we
someone
need,
where there's a
water
little bit
polo.
more stuff going on. So I think Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Andy Robinson.
Wow. Anne Marie busted out the water polo knowledge too.
Oh,
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's right. I've seen Enterprise.
yeah. I don't know if he'd be the water polo guy, but yeah.
Although I would like to see him play.
We could
Why?
also have him play 7 of 9. I don't know. Hilarious.
I want to see him.
Like, Scott, why'd you get so quiet right there, Scott?
Yeah, I don't.
it's
need
just
See it a
an
better
effect.
light. Nah.
I was off
see it.
lost
A lot more like
picturing him
you. I would
playing.
just think he would be like a lot more like
Leave that alone.
Wear a catsuit.
I could see him being a Klingon. I could see him being like
Yeah.
Martok or
Oh, good one.
one of those guys.
Definitely.
Or what's his name? Robert O'Reilly plays him.
Gowron.
Garon.
Galron, yeah.
Go
Oh,
Garon
right.
eyes.
Yeah, he would be good Garon.
Why
Yeah.
didn't they take him and
Okay.
like go kill the changelings in that episode? Where like everybody dresses up as a Klingon in Deep Space Nine. He would have been the perfect person for that mission.
Mhm.
Instead, they went with like O'Brien and
Didn't Jotsia
no.
be one? Or
Did you see him playing O'Brien, just like complaining?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
O'Brien
that'd
and
be great.
Odo and
That'd be a
Sisko.
good one.
It's hard time I've changed the bloody.
I'd want to see him doing a Captain Kirk, but like let him just do a total caricature of Captain Kirk. You know how like we always do.
I
no,
thought of that
I do
too.
not
Just watch
want
him
Captain
go
Kirk
nuts.
to go anywhere.
Let's see you do it, Ryan, real quick. I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
I
What are you
can,
talking
but
about, Ryan?
first I'm going to defer to Mr. Scott Baker, who does an excellent one. In fact,
Oh, excuse
Oh,
us.
Mm,
Here.
pouring
I
into
don't
it.
know, not that-
Scott
I-
Baker.
no.
I can't do it
Okay.
with like the pressure's on.
yeah, no, you've done it. I've seen it.
Yeah, no pressure.
Just
Guys,
talk about
bring
the
it
mask
on.
behind you as him.
Yeah,
Oh.
tell us about that Vader mask. Oh, I mean,
Oh,
sorry
good.
about the Kirk mask.
As Captain
Yeah,
Kirk.
The two possible
Our Vader mask is just exactly
Mike
like
Myers. Mike Myers.
Hamlet over here. Here we go.
Yeah. Did you know that this is Mike Myers, but the mask was Captain James T. Kirk? They bought it at a gas station and painted it white.
There we go.
Amazing.
There we go.
All right.
Totally get that at a gas station.
I didn't know it was at a
Anne
gas
Marie
station.
believes that you can get it at a gas station.
Yeah, in
Ryan?
Wisconsin, you can get anything there.
What?
Your turn.
I've never tried a Captain Kirk impression.
Well, give us a Picard at least.
Wow, that's the one. Yeah, Picard.
It's like
same
one
Beverly.
step away from John Wayne, but a bit breathier. Like
I love
Okay.
this Picard. It's just Picard.
Yeah,
is
same
legit.
Beverly.
It's pretty good.
Beverly, Commander Gator. Because it always works, Worf.
Shut up, Wesley. Shut up.
Perfect.
Hey, Beverly, one more time.
Where
That's
Worf says
perfect.
like, "You have always used my love for loyalty or whatever the it
No.
was
Honor.
against me,
Honor.
honor against me," and he goes, "Because it always works, Worf."
Just shut up, Wesley.
That was terrible.
Yeah. Your
But
voice
that's
is way
what
better
I
when you do
did.
the. Yeah, I will feed him.
That was so bad. It was good.
Oh yeah. Oh
You know,
gosh.
The only way he could get it, get into character.
Why did Beverly? The way you say it.
It doesn't like Beverly. Like
I could see them living
really
in a
flat,
trailer
like
somewhere.
no accent. He doesn't like it like Patrick Stewart does on like American Dad or Family Guy. That Patrick Stewart doing his own caricature of himself.
Oh, I forgot he was on American Guy. He played the director guy, right?
Yeah.
No, he's on
American Dad. He was on that.
American Dad. Yeah, American Dad.
American Dad. Oh yeah, I confused them.
Yeah, me too. I said the same thing.
Yeah, American
Guy.
Did I say
American
Family
Guy.
Dad? Something like they're a Family Guy. I don't know what I said, but
You said American Guy.
It's cute.
But
I don't know.
How about Andrew Robinson actually playing Shatner, but in the Twilight Zone?
Wow.
One where he's talking about something's on the wing.
Oh, that's a good one.
Something on the wing. Right, exactly.
There you go.
I'm lying. It's not. Is there something? I don't know. It's a lie. Maybe it's not a lie. You know, those kind of things. I think I would do it too. There's something on the wing.
Anybody else got a
Nope. Well, I know you already probably said it in the main episode, but to make sure to shout out JJ Lendl for the amazing artwork.
Oh my God, his stuff is so good.
Isn't it so good? I asked him at 4:45 this morning. I sent him a message like, "Hey, would you do a wire drawing?" And then by 10:30 a.m., he got back to me with this amazingness.
Wow,
that looks so legit.
I know. And he also did my shirt, the 7th Rule shirt, and you can look for him on JJ Lendl, JJLENDL.com.
JJLENDL.com. And the most amazing thing is that he made that thing because he felt sorry for you, because he's like, wow, what a strange person messaging me at 4:45 in the morning.
All night.
She's like, I got to do something to get this lady off my back. This is weird.
Exactly.
She's up
No, he has a project right now, like to help with like quarantine isolation anxiety, where if you request an episode, I'll make a poster right away. So,
oh wow,
he's
amazing.
Okay, can I ask a question for anybody?
For Scott Baker, yes, go ahead.
Okay, Scott Baker.
Nice.
Has anyone else, you in particular, Scott Baker, been binge watching pandemic shows? No, so it's just
I'm actually.
So I'm just.
I'm actually,
no need watching it happen.
All I have to do is turn on the regular TV, and all I see is pandemic shows. Just turn on the news.
Life is imitating art.
Go to the grocery
Two shows.
Go to the grocery store.
I'm looking at my window.
That's the show I'm watching.
This was The Walking Dead. They're unpacking the toilet paper.
We watched Airplane 2 nights ago.
Oh yes, I saw that. The one where they put the Walking Dead sounds on people. I saw that. Did you post it? I can't remember who posted it.
I probably did. I'm pissing on off.
I watched two different, I watched the 1995 movie with it was oh gosh, Donald Sutherland and then it was I'm trying to think of what it was called. Now I can't remember the movie. I literally watched it 2 days ago. And
it was called They Live with Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Or was They Live Again?
They live. They back.
They back. The sequel.
They back again.
Anybody else seen They Live?
More time.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I knew Scott had.
Yeah.
They Live.
I've actually been watching, catching up on old episodes of Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack.
Me too.
Nice.
They've been on Amazon for a while now. I've been going through all of them.
Well, it's amazing how many of the mysteries have now been solved. They have their
it was like the Where Are They Now? You know,
Solved mysteries, right? Solved mysteries.
Yeah.
Wait,
they're from the 80s, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wait, they updated to tell you they've been solved?
Yeah. Each episode has the little tag at the end. It's update. We caught so-and-so because of a tip from one of our viewers, and drug his ass to jail. Now he's going to be executed. And you're like,
oh, now I want to watch, because before I hated when there weren't happy endings.
Well, there's still a lot of, we have no idea.
I wouldn't say there were happy endings.
There's no happy endings in those days.
Yeah. The person's still dead.
Yeah. It's never so-and-so's been missing for 25 years and then they find them. It's always, well, now we know who the murderer is and he's going to jail. It's a happy ending.
Mystery tip line work.
Hey, Rex, what are you
Scott, what
watching?
you drinking?
What
Iced
have
coffee.
I been watching?
Okay.
Oh,
Like, we should have a
gosh.
wine party or something.
Yeah,
would,
we
right?
can,
You
let's
have to
do
get
a
me
wine
on
party.
that.
Can we actually do that? Let's actually do that. Wine party.
I've been watching.
they're doing
the,
toilet tissue parties
series.
now.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's on Hulu.
I don't even understand the toilet. I don't understand that. What is that?
You might run out. You never know.
You might run
never
out.
know. What will
That's
you
just
do when you
hoarding.
run out
It's
of
just
pee-pee?
hoarding.
Yvette?
For no reason.
If they
Did
said
you-
diarrhea was going around, then
Right.
I
I was
understand.
like, what's going on? I thought you get a cough, not diarrhea.
If you're a
What is
woman,
happening?
if you're a
Well,
female and it's that time, you might be inclined to go.
I'm good. I'm
pee-pee
good.
in case you
I
run
shop
out.
at Sam's
Because
Club.
if
I always have toilet paper, but I don't need to go and buy a whole bunch. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
I think
the
this
thing.
free for all's gone down the toilet.
Miss
Literally.
Sorry.
We're
Well,
gonna
now
close
that
it.
Ryan's made a joke, yeah.
We're gonna
All right,
close it.
Ryan, what are you binge watching?
Oh,
Yeah, come on. What are you binge watching, Ryan?
nothing, I guess.
Nothing.
The card.
I tried to watch a little bit of WWE wrestling because I heard they were going to do it. I heard they're going to do it without the audience, and I wanted to see how weird and awkward it was, and I thought it would be hilarious. It wasn't hilarious. It was like sad and pathetic,
Sad.
and I felt really bad for them. And I felt it felt like voyeurism.
I gotta watch that. I never heard of
It's
that.
practice.
Do they
You know?
like
It was
just
not
like
good.
fake punch to their like
Oh
fake
wow,
punch
I never heard of
each other
that.
because
It was sad. So check
gonna
it
look
out
through
on
that.
Hulu, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm gonna check that out.
Rex, I'm
Okay.
sorry. We're going to end with you. What was it that you said you were binge watching?
Oh, and now I can't think the name of it. That's how much I've been
Killer.
watching. It was the little girl who's it's actually kind of going with the card and everything. It's the one on, I think CBS has it normally. It's the one with the little girl who is
Oh,
you know, it starts with an E, and I can't even think it slipped out, but it's actually been pretty decent. But they find the girl. It's the airplane crash, and they find the girl at the airplane crash. And
Evolution.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't. think.
Emergence.
Emergence. That's it.
That's
yeah.
it right there. I've been watching, and I've been kind of. It's been pretty decent. It actually has been. I've been kind of watched quite a bit of
like
it.
the first
Yeah.
like.
I love Clancy Brown. He's great.
Yeah.
Wait,
I need
Yeah.
a college basketball
take
game.
your emergence every morning, guys. during
Yeah,
this
I miss
pandemic.
college basketball.
Oh, buddy.
I do
Not
have
fun.
one TV
Not
recommendation that people aren't
Ain't no
watching enough.
madness in this March.
Man, no madness here, boy. I'm so
I
mad.
go
I'm
back
mad that this
watching
happened.
Voyager.
It's
We're
just
watching all
March
the-
mad.
It's just March mad. Goddamn mad.
Just March Mad.
Yeah, there's no madness.
It's going to be July madness.
We're all
That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
No madness.
We gotta let Anne Marie say
Oh,
what
wait.
she was gonna say.
But also
Oh.
make sure everybody
You've
checks out
been
For All
talking,
Mankind because it's
What?
by
For all mankind?
Oh, yeah.
if you do Apple TV, like the first 3 weeks free, which is what I did, and then I canceled right away. But it's by Ronald D. Moore, so like
Yeah, and the Okudas, right?
yes, and the Akudas, which is I do anything that the Akudas tell me to do. So like episode.
What's it
5
about?
So the premise is that it starts with like the first man on the moon, but the premise is what if Russians were the first instead of Americans?
Right.
And then from there on,
Oh.
it diverges, and like so the first season is like the first 10 years after that, and every season after is going to be
Okay.
like how history.
Oh, so
from
it's
that.
like a.
It's in Russia?
That sounds
No, it's like set kind of mostly in NASA, but the later episodes are set like when people start trying to colonize the moon, and they feel very like 90s Star Trek in terms of like the depth and like glimpses into the human condition. And you can definitely tell it's by Ron Moore and the Akudas. And in the first few episodes, there's some really fun like TNG one-off characters who like the actors make appearances in the show. It's really good.
Like who?
Give it a couple of episodes. Like my favorite, like Kiva Saja, like in Too Many Toys or All the Toys.
yeah.
The TNG episode is called. And some other good ones. That's my favorite. He's in the
That's
first.
so cool.
So,
And as I like follow the Akudas more, it turns out like I don't know that much about space history, but like actually a lot of the events are based on real people and like real things that happened. So they just like in the first few episodes, just tiny little details change, and then as the years go on, like more and more it diverges more and more. But one episode in particular, like Hi Bob, which you have to look for in the later ones, is like a really fun sort of Star Trek Bob Newhart mashup. So make sure to check it out.
Cool.
Bob Newhart. That's weird.
Mhm.
I love Bob Newhart.
That's
It's
really
so fun.
It's
That's
really
super
fun.
Did anyone else notice Scott Baker looking off into the sunset?
No, but I think that Bob Newhart would be great playing Jonathan Archer.
Well, he would.
I think Andy playing Newhart.
I don't know about that. Here's a fun story about Bob Newhart.
Garrett doing Newhart.
He used to be my regular when I used to work in Westwood at a restaurant, and he and his wife were the nicest humans in the world, and he would always order an Amstel Light beer with his meal. He would change up the meal sometimes, but
I'm going to drink Amstel Light.
He always got the Amstel Light, and he would only drink like half it. He just did it for the flavor. And it was the funniest moment,
For the flavor.
I mean, he wasn't, he was just taking a couple sips. Didn't even want to finish it. But one time,
he walks away.
When I gave him the bill, and he gives me the card. I said, "Oh, well, do you want to look at it at all?"
Whoa!
And that's what
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Who injected Cirroc?
I've been drinking a little bit. Sorry.
No, so Bob Newhart goes. I just
had a little flavor, just a little flavor,
just a little.
I said, "Do you want to look at the bill?" And he says, "I'm sure it's fine." See, you didn't hear the story. I'm sorry, guys. I tried.
No, he said he wanted to look at the bill.
I'm binge watching.
Well, I guess we'll never know what happened.
Wait, that was the end of the story?
He just paid the bill?
Paid the bill, tipped well, and was very nice. Yeah.
Great story.
And you drank the rest of the Amstel Light.
No, it was just funny because I asked him if he wanted to see the bill, and he said, "I'm sure it's fine." And I realized, I'm like, "Oh yeah, this guy's got tons of money. Why does he give a shit if it's $28 or $31 or whatever?" So it was very funny. Anyway,
this is the best commercial for Amstel Light ever.
I'll take your word for that, Ryan.
Back to watching my Voyage, my 7 of 9 episodes in Voyager, so I can. I'm watching all of them. We're just picking and choosing and going like the Raven, all the her origin, the good ones, so that when we watch Picard, we can sort of piece some of that continuity, see how they've done with it. I wondered if Jerry went back and watched any of her own stuff. So that's what we're doing. So I'm gonna go back to doing that now.
Can we talk about Jerry now? Is it a spoiler still?
Gotta go.
No, I didn't watch it yet.
Because you said you wanted
No, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about
Not this week. Not this week. Like 2 episodes ago. Like
don't spoil it.
Oh, from like last week.
You guys
I still
know
haven't seen it yet.
Yes, you have.
We'll have to do a free-for-all question about it.
No, that's Discovery.
Like
that explains that first Picard thing you guys did. Oh my God.
Press the button there, Ryan.
Turn it off.
Spoil it.
Yeah, so I do want to say thank you to Dennis Koch. I want to say thank you to Eve England, to our associate producers, Rex A. Wood, Commander Homer Frizzell, Kat R. King, Yvette Blackmon, Dr. Marie Segal. Also, thank you to our Trek Tech, Heather.
I'm all right.
Cirroc, all falling down.
Are you okay?
I swear, it's okay.
We're sending help.
Injecting him.
Help is on the way.
I swear.
Don't worry.
I swear, I gotta go back to the trunk.
And Scott Baker.
And he is Mrs. Doubtfire in this.
Thanks, Scott Baker. We'll see you guys around. Always remember the same rule.